Welcome everyone to this candidate forum tonight. My name is Barbara Grosh. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of the Rochester metropolitan area. We are a non-partisan political organization, membership organization. We welcome membership from any of you who are on with us tonight. We do not endorse candidates or parties. We endeavor to help voters be well informed before an election. And it's in that spirit that we're sponsoring this forum tonight for districts 21 and 29 of the Monroe County Legislature. And I can tell you that this forum is being recorded and it will be available on the League's YouTube channel. Tomorrow we'll send out a link to those of you who are registered or attending, and you'll be able to find it on our website as well. So I am going to introduce now Tyrese Bryant, who is going to be our moderator tonight, and he will explain the rules and procedures. And I'll see everyone on the other side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barbara, and good evening, everyone. My name is Tyrese Bryant, as Barbara said, and I'll be your moderator tonight for this forum between candidates and legislative districts, Monroe County Legislative Districts 21 and 29. The League of Women Voters has prepared questions to ask the candidates, but we'd like to get questions from all of you tonight. So if you have any questions you'd like both candidates to answer, please, both candidates for both LDs, please put them in the Q&A that you'll find at the bottom of your screen. All questions will be asked of all candidates in LD 21 and LD 29. So now it's time to meet our candidates in the order they will be speaking first. So candidates for LD 21 are Oscar Brewer Jr. and Santos Cruz. Candidates for LD 29 are William Burgess and Dr. Candace Lucas. Our timekeeper this evening is Judy Sternberg. She'll be holding up cards to let candidates know how much time they have left and when their time is up tonight. The first candidate to answer a question has 1.5 minutes. The second candidate will have 1 minute. Throughout the forum, we'll go back and forth between both candidates and both LDs who answers a question first. So now I'm excited, and Mr. Cruz, you can turn on your camera. So now I'm excited to kick us off with opening statements. So we'll start in LD 21 with Mr. Oscar Brewer Jr. So go right ahead with your opening statement.
Good evening, everybody. First of all, to the League of Women Voters, thank you for this opportunity. This is amazing. My name is Oscar Lee Brewer Jr., lifelong resident of Rochester, born here in '79. Lifelong, I've been an organizer since the age of 12. More recently around tenant rights, former member of Citywide Tenant Union. Also, coalition worked with Housing Justice for All, Right to Counsel out of New York City. So that's pretty much Oscar in a nutshell. I'm not going to take the whole time for introductions. I want to, not take up everybody else's time tonight. Make sure we get some good questions asked.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brewer. Appreciate it. Now it's time to introduce the second candidate in LD 21, Santos Cruz. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Santos Cruz. I am a 12-year veteran of the City of Rochester Fire Department. My last 6 years, I've worked around this area. And so I know a lot of the public concerns and hazards that we're facing. I recently took on the role of the community risk reduction firefighter for the entire City of Rochester, where I get to focus on prevention through education and making sure that I get into the schools and teach kids about fire safety, job development to the high schoolers, and get into the high rises and teach multiple different things. Also the president of the Rochester Hispanic Youth Baseball League, a league that is in the Baden Park, Upper Falls, and Hudson, where for the last 7 years, I have focused on youth development and building community equity. I believe that these are some of the pillars of our community, and if we could garnish the proper resources to this area, we could fix a lot of the root issues that we're facing. public safety, youth development, and community equity. And thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. And those are opening statements from candidates from LD 21. We're now going to go over the opening statements from candidates from LD 29, starting with Mr. William Burgess. Go right ahead, sir. You have 1 minute.
Hi, my name is William Burgess, and I want to thank you. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for giving me an opportunity and using this platform to learn a little bit about me. I was born and raised in the northeast part of the city. I went to Andrew J. Townsend School 39, Frederick Douglass Middle School, and I'm a proud graduate of Edison Tech High School. I attended SUNY Brockport and Brockport College. I'm currently the legislator representing the 29th District. I'm a social worker, having been in the field for 27 years, working with at-risk youth. Currently, I'm a skill builder, working with youth in foster care, teaching the foster parent about trauma and its effects. Also teaching the foster parent and foster child skills to live harmoniously, to stop disruptions and strengthen home stabilization. I do this work because I deeply love my wife and our 2 daughters, and I want everyone to have the opportunity to have a happy, healthy life and to thrive.
Thank you so much. To our second candidate, your opening remarks, please welcome Dr. Candace Lucas. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd also like to start by thanking the League of Women Voters for organizing tonight's forum, and to all of you for choosing to join in. My name is Dr. Candace Lucas, and I'm the endorsed Democrat from Monroe County Legislature, District 29. I'm currently the leader for the Legislative District Committee and look forward to meeting with my neighbors in both 14621 and Maplewood to bridge our communities into the new LD 29. I work for the Urban League of Rochester as the Senior Vice President for Equity and Advocacy and serve on various nonprofit boards and committees. Whether through my professional career or volunteer duties, I have worked collaboratively to develop programs, lead initiatives, and advocate for policy changes to improve the health and well-being of Rochester residents. And now I want to bring my experience, knowledge, and passion to the county legislature, where I can be a strong voice for LD 29 and an advocate for equity in Rochester.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lucas, and thank you to all the candidates for your opening statements. Let's get right into this. Let's start with questions. So we're going to jump back over to LD 21. Mr. Cruz, the first question is going to be for you. How will your work in the county legislature impact the community in which you live?
Thank you for that question. I would like to say and start off by saying that it is my experience within my community, within the 21st district, that gives me the proper perspective to understand how we need to begin to work within the legislative body and where the resources need to be concentrated on, as I understand the public safety hazards, being working in this community for the last 6 years, as well as living in it for the last 11 years. There's a lot of youth development that we need improvement on, not only in my district, but also citywide, right? I need to make sure that when we get into looking at the resources that are being given to the county, right, that I could be a proper voice and serve the needs of my citizens. From a public safety perspective, I'm really concerned with a lot of things that I've experienced myself. And so we can't really stabilize the community if we don't feel safe, if my citizens don't feel safe, if families don't feel safe to go outside and play in the park safely or even drive down the street, right? I think my best impact within the legislative body would be to continue my work as a community risk reduction, but now at large, and utilize my experience to create an even safer environment for us all to thrive in within the 21st district, and continue to build upon the pillars of youth development by creating not only the awareness, but strengthening the programs for different type of jobs and trade skills that could be appealing towards the youth, to making sure that we keep them busy throughout the year and along the summer.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. Mr. Brewer, same question to you. How will your work in the county ledge impact the community in which you live?
So the work I do now is obviously a lot around unhoused population and the tenants, as well as my homeowners. The first thing that I would love to do is improve the quality of housing that we currently have. It's great that we're building new housing and increasing home ownership, but we need to take care of the renters. Housing is a human right. Housing is healthcare. Housing is public safety. Housing is stability. To get back to basics, if we stabilize housing and, expand the current programs we do have for our children and make them more accessible, including all of our children, our Black and brown, our Latino, and our white children. It's primarily looking at legislative District 21, looking at Parcells Avenue. We really need to include those children into more programs. So that would be the top of my priority. Like I said, improving their quality of housing and improving the resources that they currently do not really have accessible to our children. Reaching out to our children at a younger age, and also stopping and combating that school to pipeline prison system that we have right now. We need to connect with our children. Our children are our future. They're the backbone of our community.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brewer. So we'll head over to LD 29. Dr. Lucas, question is to you. How will your work in the county ledge impact the community in which you live?
Thank you for that question. Throughout my career, I have worked collaboratively with community members, elected officials, and residents to improve the quality of life for all by creating programs and leading initiatives. Currently, I work for the Urban League of Rochester, and part of my work is the implementation of, looking at the implementation of the recommendations that came through the Commission on Racial and Structural Equity. As a legislator, I will work tirelessly to make sure that many of those recommendations are implemented or at least worked on, because those are all about creating equity across the county and ensuring that everyone has the opportunity to thrive in our community. And so I see this role in legislator as a furtherance of what I have been doing for the last 20 years.
Thank you so much. Mr. Burgess, the question is to you. How will your work in the county ledge impact the community in which you live?
Improving the quality of life for, especially for lower income families, and then strengthening the quality of life for your middle class. Connecting our communities to the resources that we already have in place. The county is our, the city and the county, we're rich with resources, but we're poor with connecting the people to those resources. So using the county assets to further reach those people in those communities, and bring them closer together and linking them together, we will be able to bridge the gap. We have a big gap between the have and have-nots. And it's definitely been a systemic issue that we've been faced with from the beginning of time here in Rochester. And fighting for diversity, equity, and inclusion is part of that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Burgess. Just a reminder to all of our attendees watching, please submit any questions in the Q&A that you have tonight. We are going to try, we've got 90 minutes, we're going to try to get to as many questions as possible, but we want to hear from the folks who are online. So please, if you have any questions for the candidates of both LDs, please submit them in the Q&A. We're going to start back with Mr. Burgess over in 29. Let's talk about public safety, because this is something that I think is top of mind to all of our residents across the county. Talk about, the question is to you, what is the role Monroe County plays in reducing crime in the city of Rochester and throughout the county?
So when we look at the reach that Monroe County has when it comes to policing, Monroe County pretty much has the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. They primarily, patrol. They don't patrol the inner city. They're more or less on the borders and in the suburbs. Once again, reimagining what police work looks like. We just voted to have 40 new sheriffs come aboard, along with a Monroe County Sheriff's RV for support and technical support. Excuse me. Once again, reimagining what police looks like. Even though I voted for those 40 new officers to come on, we also had conversations where what it would look like for those 40 new officers. You know, I want to see those officers in the inner city doing proactive work, working with kids at recreation centers, coaching basketball, softball, getting them connected to the people in which they police and the communities in which they serve. I definitely want to see diversity, equity, inclusion training, and bringing those people, the sheriffs, closer to the people that they are policing.
Thank you very much. Dr. Lucas, same question to you. What role will the county play? What role does the county play, and what role can the county play in reducing crime in the city of Rochester?
Absolutely. I think the county is integral to this position. As I've been talking to neighbors across the river these last few months, public safety is a huge issue for everyone. You know, they're afraid. The smash and grabs, the car thefts, the gun violence. It's affecting all of us, and so the county has to step in. I'm glad, you know, to hear Mr. Burgess talk about the 40 officers that were just approved, because that's really important. Policing our communities in a community engaged way and protecting our community is important. Everyone wants that, but we want to make sure that the officers that come on are diverse, are reflective of our community, and can relate to the residents there. But in addition to that, this is not just a policing issue, it is a county-wide issue. And so we have to make sure that there are more opportunities for our children and our youth to be engaged and busy. And we also have to engage our residents to make sure that they are diligent and aware of what's going on, so that we're all working to stop the crime and to improve public safety.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lucas and Mr. Burgess over at 29. Let's go over to 21. We'll start with you, Mr. Brewer. Same question is to you. What role does the county have in reducing crime, and what role can they have in reducing crime in the city?
Well, you know, being a lifelong resident, the county has a big role, just like the city does. So what role should it have? I really believe we should go back into a form of, you know, I remember growing up in the city, our police officers actually, they had their baseball league, they had a softball league. So maybe getting our cops more involved with our teens, you know, before they're committing crimes at a young age, getting community police, you know, having a community, you know, training our community, let me say it like that, on how to police itself. For certain things, you don't need a cop to respond. Obviously, for certain things, we are going to need police to respond for. Definitely, I would love to see cops that are my neighbors, patrolling my area, you know, that really care about us, that knows us, versus some cop that lives maybe 3 counties away coming here and not really caring about people. Also, we need to keep in mind how the police are responding to our at-risk and our at-crisis folks, considering our folks with mental health and our folks with severe addiction. You know, you can't be all thumbs with those folks. You know, you meet them where they're at in a sense. Again, people are humans. We need to be treated like humans. So I would really love to see the police, whether it's the county sheriff or even local police, work together with the community, involve in the community. I remember there used to be PACTAC in the city of Rochester. Again, there used to be baseball leagues. Actually seeing our cops get out there and want to talk to the communities, invest into our community instead of, you know, having, I mean, right now there's a lot of crime in the city, which is crazy. I mean, I see it myself. So our cops probably don't have enough time to really engage with the community. So we need to find a common ground to reach out to our children the right way.
Thank you. Mr. Cruz, question for you. What role does the county play and can play in reducing crime in the city of Rochester?
Let's see. As a public servant in the community, I have had a hand-on-hand experience with working with RPD in the city of Rochester. The county plays a major role in making sure that the city and other entities around the county have the proper resources, not only to police the different districts and the different towns and villages in the city of Rochester, but also to make sure that we have the proper resources to investigate, right? With the level of crime that we're witnessing, at times it can be seen as that sometimes the investigators may not have the allotted amount of time to take care of each crime, right? And the individual, especially with how we see the bail reform, sometimes it can't get a bit right, with how we're seeing individuals maybe get off on a ticket because there might be minor offenses and then something bigger might happen down the road, right? I think that the county plays a role in making sure that the resources are allotted to the most at-risk areas within our community to make sure that youth and youth-related crimes are being taken care of by making sure, like Mr. Brewer say, having baseball leagues in the community. I mean, it's not that there isn't, there still is. You know, I just had opening, I've been after 7 years. My wife, myself, and the board just had an opening day last Saturday where we had some 210 youth, 500 family members at Baden Park, Upper Falls, and Hudson, right? At Baden Park the week before this Saturday, our opening day, a 16-year-old girl was shot and killed at 3 a.m. in the morning, right? We had a little girl that was stepped in the needle. Over by Oakman and Clinton Avenue, we have the open air dark market at times. It can be very difficult. For me, it becomes very difficult, right? But
Mr. Cruz, I'm going to stop you though, so we can move on. So just a reminder to the candidates, take a look at Judy. So you'll see, yeah, so Judy, it's just a little blurry because I think you have the blur factor on. So yeah, so keep an eye on Judy. Reminder, 15 seconds with yellow, red is stop. So let's stay on public safety and let's sort of end the conversation on public safety because we've got some other topics. With the question to Mr. Brewer, let's start with you on this last question on public safety. We'll start with, we'll keep this row on the sheriff's department. Do you think Monroe County needs more sheriff deputies on the street? One, and two, should sheriff deputies live in Monroe County? Mr. Brewer, the first, go right ahead.
If we're going to bring more sheriffs in, because obviously we're going to need the cops, we're not going to get rid of them anytime soon. Yes, they should live in the district that they, I mean, it's kind of like running for county lodge. You have to live in that district in order to run for it. So I would say the same thing needs to apply to our police officers, our county sheriff, even city police, but primarily around the county sheriff. I would love to see the county sheriff live within Monroe County. That way they know what's going on in the county that they're policing. That way they have a stronger chance of being more connected with their neighbors. Remember, not everybody in the county is a criminal. So not everybody in the county should be treated like one. So, I mean, it is that you do get that barrier. You do cross that issue when folks that are policing our area don't even live or come from the county. And to me, lifelong resident, again, it is alarming that we have so many cops that don't live in this county, police in our county. And I know I've talked to a lot of constituents coming out of petitioning and now canvassing for election. And that has been that's been one of their top questions. Why is it that we have county sheriffs that do not live in this county or come from our county, working in our county? And I would think that would also help our stores and our economic growth, because then that money that they're getting paid by the county, you're spending in this county as well. So that would definitely drive up our revenue market here in the county. And it would probably, bring more trust amongst the police and the county sheriff that are serving us. Keeping in mind they do take an oath. And I would like to add, I did have experience with public safety. I was studying to be an EMT coming out of high school, studied bioscience. It's just I went into the unhoused population working with them, instead of becoming a first responder.
So just to clarify, Mr. Brewer, to make sure I get the answer, you believe we need more deputies on the road in the county?
I would say we're going to add more police. They should definitely be from this county. So it's a yes to both.
Okay.
Do I believe that we need more? Right now, I think we got enough.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Cruz, same question to you. Do we need more deputies on the road, and should deputies live in Monroe County?
Yes, and to utilize all my time so I could properly explain. There's individuals that say we don't need more policing, while under the same breath say, how come I can't call 911? I could have been killed by now. Why isn't somebody here? What's going on? Well, what's going on is that we don't have enough police to respond to every priority one call, right? We don't have enough sheriffs to respond, right? We saw it 2 years ago where the city went to a state of emergency, and the crime was so high that we needed state sheriffs to come into the city and help, right, deal with some of the stuff that the city cops couldn't necessarily deal with, right? So it's not about getting out of this through policing. It's about understanding that we need to reimagine policing, reimagine how the sheriffs do their work, and understand that they're here to protect us and serve, right? Do they need to live in the county? Of course, sheriffs should live in the county. I mean, there's something to be said about understanding your community and living in your community that you serve.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. Let's go over to 29. We'll start with Legislator Burgess. Question is to you. You just recently approved some additional deputies on the road. Do we need more deputies, and should they live in Monroe County?
Well, with the 40 that we just added, that should be enough. Going door to door and speaking to, the people that live in the community that I serve, people are afraid. People want to feel safe. They want to see the cops. Should those cops be from the county, and should those cops be from the communities in which they'll police? Yes, in a perfect world, yes, that's what we want. But we've seen a declined number of applicants from especially from the inner city when it comes to police and firefighting. And we know that this has been because of systemic racism and biases set forth that kind of pushes the people, the Black and brown people in the communities down. So we have to find ways to eliminate those barriers and get people from our community back into these professions to help out the communities in which they live in and work in. For example, there's a junior sheriff's program, that I witnessed, and I went out and checked it out, and there was no Black and brown children in that program. So we have to get connected back. We have to get our police and our sheriffs connected back to the community, and start getting our young kids connected to law enforcement, so they'll see it as. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm running out of time. I'm out of time.
15 seconds. Yellow's
Okay,
15
okay.
seconds. Red is stop.
All right. So yes. We got to get our kids back connected to these professions. When people live where they work, they have more of a pride, and they're connected to those people and those communities.
Thank you so much. Dr. Lucas, question is to you. Do we need more deputies on the road, and should they reside in Monroe County?
I would agree. I think that it is important to have, enough police on the road. And right now there is a shortage with retirements and so forth. So we want to make sure that we have enough deputies and police officers on the road to adequately protect and serve our communities. But I will also agree that we need to make sure that those deputies and police officers are reflective of our communities that they serve. We want to make sure that they're treating all citizens fairly and justly, and that they're taking the time to learn the communities that they are working in. And so, the preference would be that they're from Monroe County, but we know that now we're going to have, deputies from other counties as well. And I think it's really important that they are adequately trained to work with our communities, that they spend enough time engaging with the community and ensuring that they will be fair and just and responsive to the community members.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lucas. We're going to stay with you, and we're going to switch gears, and we're going to talk about redistricting, which is, I know a lot of people have different opinions about, and in Monroe County especially, I know there's some ongoing lawsuits right now pertaining to certain LDs. So let's start off with you, Dr. Lucas. Do you support amending the county charter to create an independent redistricting process in the future? If so, what actions will you start if you're elected in 2020? What actions will you start if you're elected in 2024 to start the process? And if you don't support that, tell us why you don't.
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. This was this was a different year with redistricting. And as the leader of LD 29, I was intimately involved in that process. Our LD 29 was it was changed because of the redistricting. And as I mentioned in my opening, it's now 14621 and a broader part of Maplewood across the river. So we're joining the Northeast and the Northwest. And so I understand how confusing that process was for many people and at times even contentious. And I had the opportunity to work closely with Legislator Burgess during that time to help build bridges and open doors for him to be able to meet with different individuals, to talk about it, to bring the community together, to work with him on how we would like to see that redistricting process work. And so moving forward, I would be in favor of an independent body that could draw district lines fairly, looking at the census and ensuring that we don't have political bias as part of that. And I would start working on that in 2024 with other legislators to put that to put the policies in place and the guidelines in place for what that committee would look like.
Thank you so much. Mr. Burgess, question is to you. You support amending the county charter to create an independent redistricting commission to support this process in the future? And if you're reelected, what would you do in 2024 to start the process if you support doing that? And then if you don't support it, tell us why you don't.
Well, I definitely support. I definitely do support that position. This last year was a bit of a whirlwind going through the redistricting process. We're faced with tough decisions, right? And we're faced with, well, all in short, the Republicans, control the legislature and presented a map that would put Democrats in a bad position. So we had to fight. It would put Democrats in a bad position for the next 10 years. Democrats fought for a redistricting commission, but it was blocked twice by the Republicans. And we had a lot that was being said, and we had lies being told by people that were saying that they're fighting for people within the city, and they don't live within the city. They were actually fighting for their own self-interest, small self-interest groups. At the end of the day, the city is primarily Democrat. So with the Republicans fighting for this map, it shows you that they're not going to fight for a map that puts themselves in a bad predicament. They want to retake the legislature, right? So like I said, they were fighting for a map that would have damaged the Democratic base in Monroe County. And I definitely would moving forward, would fight for an independent redistricting commission with my colleagues.
Thank you so much. Let's go to LD 21. We'll start with you, Mr. Cruz. Do you support amending the county charter to create an independent commission for redistricting? If so, if you're elected, what would you do in 2024 to start that process? And if you don't support an independent commission, tell us why you don't.
I do support an independent commission. Being part of the 21st Democratic Committee for the last 6 years, as with everybody else I just spoke, this was a really, really hot button topic, right? I myself almost got basically drawn right out of my district, right? You have two opposing parties who want to create a district, like Legislator Burgess mentioned, to best represent them, right, and give them that edge, right? And that doesn't help the people out. It only helps whatever party out, right? If we are truly looking for the benefit of the people, then we have to follow the charter set by New York State and Monroe County. And when we begin that process of redistricting every 10 years, that we're making sure that we're not packing anybody and cracking anybody, that we're bipartisan, that we're looking at the demographics, at minorities' growth within different legislative districts, right? That we're not utilizing the map to kind of get that edge, right? So the only way for us to remain bipartisan when it comes to creating a true map that can represent the numbers based on population and demographics is by having a independent party that can look at the data. and come to a conclusion.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. Mr. Brewer, same question to you. Do you support an independent commission, amending the county charter to create an independent commission for redistricting? And if you're elected, what would you do in 2024 to start the process? If you don't support that process, if you don't support an independent commission, why tell us why you don't?
I would definitely support an independent commission looking into this matter. I mean, considering county legislator lawmakers, we have enough on our hands. And I don't think, looking at what I saw, the redistricting of the map, I'm concerned that it really have the best interest of the constituents at heart during this process. So hopefully if we do bring an independent, and I would not mind saying yes publicly that I support this or doing the work to get it going. That we make sure our constituents are asked, kind of like have a public forum around it as well, if we could possibly do that, so we can get public feedback. It's always great to hear what our constituents want, not just when it's election season, So I would definitely be in support of that, and I would definitely, fight to make sure that happens.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brewer. We're gonna go now and start off with you again, Mr. Brewer, for this first question. How do you believe, we're gonna go over to some housing issues. So thank you so much for those answers on redistricting. So how do you believe the county can create more affordable housing and make it affordable for everyone?
As a renter myself, I struggle with that terminology, affordable housing, but being a housing organizer, we do support something that's called rent control, rent guideline board. It is a democratic board that votes on the rent guidelines. So if elected in office, I would like to work with my colleagues on County Ledge to support the city and redoing a vacancy study and making it mandatory that all landlords report their vacancy. That way the city of Rochester, along with Monroe County, can have a rent guidelines board brought to the county. Keeping in mind it is state law, but right now it is a state law where each city or county has a chance to opt into it. I would like to see that really brought to Rochester, keeping in mind that Monroe County and Rochester did have rent control over 60 years ago. So that is something we could definitely bring back. So if we want affordable housing, we have to make it affordable. We have to make it safe. I am a big firm believer that housing is a human right. But again, we need it to be habitable, safe, and affordable. So if we're going to use that term affordable housing, let's make sure it meets the cost of living. I mean, I'm talking to constituents that get $914 a month in SSI, and they're paying rent over $1,000 a month. Is that affordable housing? You got what I'm saying? So, I mean, I would definitely like to see a true form of affordable housing brought to Monroe County, and it can be done. We just have to use the power of our pen to make that happen.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer. Mr. Cruz, same question to you. And please be specific in your role as, if you're elected as a county legislator, what do you believe the county can do to create more affordable housing and make it affordable for everyone?
There we go. I think the county, we could look into the housing investment, right? But at the end of the day, I think is it that the housings are getting more or less affordable, or is the pricing of housing, creating a house, building a house, getting too expensive, right? Either the taxes are going up and everything, and is it that the Social Security and or other things payment, the pay of families is not going up with the cost of living, right? So I think the county can help by making sure that its workers, like the social workers union and every other worker that works for the county, is getting that pay increase that can allow them to keep up with the cost of living, right? And making sure that resources are allotted to make sure that we could build affordable houses and also create those jobs that will allow individuals to afford those houses.
Thank you so much. We're going to go over to 29. Dr. Lucas, let's start with you. How do you believe the county can create more affordable housing and make it affordable for everyone?
Yeah, I think the Race Commission report had an entire section on housing. And this report was written for the city and the county because the commissioners understood that housing was a county-wide issue. And so as a county legislator, I would use that report as my guidelines, as my Bible, to go through, look at the recommendations that were there and work in collaboration with the city of Rochester, the county housing department, and community stakeholders in this matter to identify the best strategies to ensure that we have affordable housing for all, that we are paying attention to landlords as well, because our renters are also very important, and our homeowners.
Thank you, Dr. Lucas. Mr. Burgess, same question to you. How do you believe the county can create more affordable housing and make it affordable for everyone?
I agree with Dr. Lucas. Definitely using the RAISE report as a base to start, moving forward on, and then also, working with our state delegations on, putting a cap on rent, supporting them for the cap on rent. I'd like to see more truly affordable housing, and I'd like to hold builders accountable. Builders are getting these huge tax breaks for having a certain percentage of their buildings as affordable housing, where you may have 50 units, but 2 or 3 are affordable housing, right? But they're getting this huge tax break. So holding them more accountable and having a bigger percentage of truly of those apartments readily available. I'd like to see a lot of these ghost houses in our community. Instead of paying 30, 40, 50,000 to tear them down, let's take that money, reinvest, get it up and running, get the C of O on it, and let's say a single mother or a single father, let's put them through a program where they learn how to take care of a house physically and financially, and then we gift them that house. Once again, you have more people living within the community, you have more people paying taxes, and when you have more people paying taxes, you are expanding your tax base. That means the county and the city will have more money for all types of programs. All right. And to
Let
make
me stop you because you're over time. So I want to make sure we got a lot of questions to get to. So please, everybody, look at Judy. If the red card is up in your sentence, just keep looking at Judy.
And I do apologize.
We're going to start with you. No, we're going to start with you for this next question.
But can I say something? I do apologize in advance. I'm having technical difficulties with my laptop. So I'm on my cell phone and I don't have the full sheet.
Gotcha. So no worries. I'll give you a 15-second for you. I'll let you know when it's 15 seconds. So let's say with you, Legislator Burgess, you and Dr. Lucas both talked about the RAISE Commission report. So a question came in from our audience. If you're reelected, what part of the RAISE Commission report would you prioritize in 2024? And tell us, how would you go about implementing that priority?
Oh, wow.
What would be number one, and how would you implement it in 2024 if you're reelected?
So number one, you said, what would
be your top priority from the report, and how would you go about implementing it?
Oh, wow. Oh, man, there's so many. Public safety, jobs in the diversity, equity, and inclusion field, making sure that people are, we have people living in the community, and we're not reflective of our workforce isn't reflective of that. So using the county resources and using the quote unquote power of a legislator to make sure those are happening is essential. Wow. There's so much.
Just give us one and tell us how you would implement it. Just give us one and tell us how you would implement it. The important piece is people want to know how you're going to do the work. So give us one and tell us how you're going to implement it.
Well, and once again, how would I implement it? I don't have the answers. I don't have the answers on that. You know, we can only throw things at the wall and hope they stick. And whatever starts working, that's what we put our resources towards. And moving forward, you know, just
15
support.
seconds.
Just oh shucks. Oh man, I'm stuck right now. I'm stuck. Yeah, like I said, there's so many issues when it comes to the race report. You know, I need a little more time to answer that question.
Okay, if we got some more time at the end, no worries. Dr. Lucas, let's go to you. What would be your top priority from that RAISE report? If you're elected in 2024, how would you go about implementing that number one priority for you?
Yeah, you know, that report was very extensive. There are over 200 recommendations that are contained in there, and they are all extremely important. So having to select just one is really hard. But what I would say is, as a county legislator, the number one that I would look at is creating a health committee for the county legislature. That was a direct recommendation out of the report for the legislature, and I think that is one that's worthy of working on. We saw the inequities in our healthcare system during the pandemic just 3 years ago. And so we need to really look at healthcare across our community, not just actual services, but access to care, funding for care, navigation for care, and the legislature can lead on this. The Monroe County Department of Public Health is part of the county. And we saw during the pandemic their strengths and some of their weaknesses. And so the legislature has a direct role to play in that. And that is an area that I would work on developing that committee and bringing the parties together so that we can truly look at our healthcare and our healthcare outcomes across this county.
Thank you, Dr. Lucas. Let's go over to LD21. Mr. Brewer, we'll start with you. From that RAISE Commission report, what would be your number one priority if you're elected? How would you go about implementing it? It's to you, Mr. Brewer. Go
I
ahead.
think we're all gonna have the same answer. I mean, thank you. I think we're all gonna have that same answer because there's so many. This is like one of those hard ones, right? But again, you know, not to piggyback too much off of Dr. Candace Lucas, but healthcare. Being an asthmatic, you know, healthcare is very, very concerning. You brought up a very good point. The pandemic that we all suffered under. We did lose a lot of healthcare providers. So I would really like to see how we can draw back in healthcare workers. Healthcare workers are very essential to us. And like, yeah, I think we really, you know, she brought up the fact of bringing up a committee. It's great to bring up a committee, but I would like to make sure that committee would be doing the work it needs to do to make sure we're, you know, increasing our healthcare workers and listening, not just increasing the healthcare workers, but making sure they have the full benefits, the adequate pay, that they're being taken care of the right way, their mental health, because our healthcare providers, just like our first responders, they see a lot of trauma. They deal with a lot of stuff that normal citizens don't deal with. So I want to make sure that they're taken care of and that they're getting fair pay. You know, like just talking about healthcare workers, I think of the union at Rochester General. You know, that's a beautiful thing that our nurses have at Rochester Regional Health have a union. So I would like to make sure again that our service providers are adequately equipped and taken care of.
Thank you so much. Mr. Cruz, question is to you. Out of that RAISE Commission report, what would be your number one priority? And how would you go about implementing it?
For me, one of those things is the decentralization of services and being able to put them around our community. A lot of the things that I've noticed, even growing up in the city, is that the question is, wow, how come we don't have this? How come we don't have that resource, right? And a lot of it is that miscommunication and misinformation, or the lack of information, most importantly, right? And on top of everything, the problems with transportation from a lot of individuals, right? So we want to make sure that we get these a lot of the healthcare agencies, the community-based programs for youth, right? To make sure that the citizens within our districts and legislative bodies have clear access to all these resources, right? a walk's notice to them, right? Sometimes we want to make sure that we pull everything together to make it easier for people, but for people that are in poor situations, impoverished, and have a high difficulty of moving around and even a little access to information, it can become extremely difficult for them to make sure that they could get to these resources. So like I mentioned, we need to start decentralizing services and put them into our community.
Thank you so much. Mr. Cruz, we're going to stay with you. We want to make sure we know the role of a county legislature is very specific. And tonight we've talked about some issues. I want to make sure we refocus on the role of a county legislature, because we've talked a little about what we can do in the city and programs that the city of Rochester have, and we'll talk about how we could sort of work in that relationship. But I want you to start with this question. What percentage of the county's budget is mandated spending, and how would you go about changing it? Because a good percentage of the budget for Monroe County is mandated spending. So we talked about a lot of issues tonight, but there's little wiggle room in terms of spending that the legislature could do that's not mandated. So tell us we want to know how much of the county's budget is mandated spending, and what would you do to go about changing that?
I don't know necessarily how much of it is mandated spending or how much we had to spend. All I can say is that a true assessment, the race assessment was created, but the assessment of how much is implementing each or any of those recommendations is going to cost to implement, right? It's one thing to have an idea. Another thing is to understand that implementing some of these things are going to cost money, right? We need to figure out what are our core issues as a community, right? And through the legislative body, come to a consensus and understand what are the areas that both parties could agree to and say, we need to invest in public safety or healthcare or mental health, right? And putting a dollar amount to how much that would cost to realistically be able to begin to fix these issues, right? And it's just like preparing a budget, right? Once we realize, hey, it's going to cost us X amount to be able to implement X amount of projects or this, then we could go and put that to the legislative body and expand on that mandated spending, right? And say, hey, we only have X amount that we are allowed to spend or that we can't spend. In order for us to be even more successful, we're going to have to expand. So I will go about writing legislation and presenting that to the legislative body of Monroe County so we can begin the process of understanding and accepting a higher budget of expenditures.
Thank you. Mr. Brewer, same question to you. What percentage of the county's budget is not mandated spending, and how would you change that?
Well, I'm not sure how much percentage, I'm not going to lie to you. What percentage is not mandated is the question, right? But if it's not mandated, I would definitely make sure that I would drop legislation in support of bills like such as mental justice, right? A campaign to bring a public utility to Rochester. Things of that nature. You got what I'm saying? Because then, again, if we bring a public utility, we're bringing investment, we're reinvesting into our community. We're going to bring in revenue. We're going to bring in more money. We're going to bring in more taxes. That way we have more money in the county legislative budget. Making sure that the dollars, so that's another thing people have been bringing up to me, is making sure that their money spent the right way. A lot of my constituents have been telling me that. So I want to make sure that their money is going to the right pod and that we're spending it the right way and not for self-gain nor self-interest. A lot of people have been telling me that's another thing they're worried about. So again, making sure that that money is spent for the better good of the district I would represent, as well as the county itself.
Thank you. Let's go over to 29. Legislative Burgess, you may know the answer to this. What percentage of the county's budget is not mandated spending, and how would you change that?
I don't have the exact answer for that either. It's hard to say. It's closer to, I want to say closer to 50%, but do not quote me. You have to look at each individual area to see, what's mandated and what's not. A lot of people say, hey, you just gave $1 million for this. Why couldn't you have put it towards the poverty initiative? But some, like you said, most of the time, when we get those federal dollars in, we have to spend them on certain things. So you'd have to do it, and that's why we're on certain committees and whatnot. But it's hard to say exactly how much is mandated, but definitely looking at where we're strong at and where we're more vulnerable at, and where can we kind of rob Peter to pay Paul, to make those weaker areas stronger.
Thank you. And Dr. Lucas, you want to end this question for us? We sort of started the conversation because we got questions in from the Q&A. We want to be laser focused on the role of the legislature in the county. So how much of the county's budget is not mandated, and how would you go about changing that?
Yeah, so I guess I would agree with the responses. I don't have an exact percentage, but most of the budget is non-discretionary. I mean, we have to pay for certain services. You have to pay, for the sheriff's department, for water services and things like that. So those have to be done, but with those. So, and I also don't know that you can go about changing those things, right? Because you need to pay for those services in order for a county to run. But I would say that with good fiscal management, we'll be able to use our discretionary dollars to, bring more equity into our communities and make sure that the services that we need are adequately supported. So I agree. I don't have that specific percentage, but I know that most of the dollars are mandated.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lucas. So we'll start again with you, Dr. Lucas, for this question. And this question came in from our Q&A. Would you commit to holding monthly town hall meetings with your constituents so you can stay in touch, hear their concerns and comments, and truly be their voice, not just be heard when you need support or are running for election?
Absolutely. As stated, I am currently the leader for our District 29 here, and that is what I've been doing, holding monthly meetings to ensure that our committee members are apprised of what's going on throughout the county, that they have the opportunity to meet with elected officials, all of their elected officials from the city, the county, the state, and bringing them in and making sure that they have a voice. Because in order to be a true representative of the people, you have to know the people, you have to talk to them, you have to understand what their concerns are, and you have to be able to share those concerns. So I have committed to doing that as the leader of LD 29, and I would absolutely continue to do that as the legislator for LD 29.
Thank you. Legislator Burgess, would you commit to monthly town hall meetings with your constituents so you can stay in touch with them, hear from them, be their voice, and not just be heard when you need their support or running for election?
So I'm in the midst of putting together a LD 29 newsletter. This will be, paper email. A paper newsletter that would go out to community members, and also an email system, and along with social media. And it'll be sort of like, come have coffee with your legislator, bring your issues and talk with your legislator, and it'll once again, connecting with the community. I've always said that it's a relationship. We need to listen to the community and hear their concerns and hear their answers to certain issues and work together, work collaboratively. So yes, I am definitely right now in the midst of putting that legislative newsletter together.
Thank you. Let's go over to 21. Let's start with you, Mr. Brewer. Would you commit to monthly town halls, meetings with your constituents so they can hear from you, you can be their voice, just not when it's time for election?
I would definitely commit to that 100%. Another thing I would love to do is a candidate walk, where I'm out walking the district, not just asking for their votes or a signature to get my name on the ballot, actually out there, boots on the ground, door knocking, checking in with my constituents once I, if elected in. You know, community contact's a big thing. And, like, you know, again, I'll go back to out here canvassing for their votes. A lot of folks are asking me, why is it this is the only time I see anybody running for office or my elected officials when it's election season? I mean, that is very sad. Being a lifelong Democrat, ever since I could vote, you know, I feel the same way. The only time I see my representative is when it's election season. I got somebody knocking on my door for a petition, or I'm getting mailers in the mail. We have to get out of that current political machine that the only time we want to talk to our community members is when it's election season. So yes, definitely 100%. Considering LD 21 overlaps 2 city council seats, I would also invite those city council members to said town halls. That way, not just the county legislator representative here is hearing from their constituents, the city council members that's representing my district would as well be able to listen in. And I think that's a really big way to communicate and connect with our community members, letting our community members knowing that we care about them. We're not just asking for them to hire us for a job. We're not just asking them for a vote. We're actually going to be there with a listening ear and their strong voice on county ledge.
Thank you. Mr. Cruz, same question to you. Would you commit to holding monthly town halls so your constituents could hear from you, not just when it's time for election season?
The answer will be yes. As a current member of the 21st Democratic Committee member for the last 6 years, I believe that one of my roles would be, and whether I get elected or not, is to educate the public in understanding where are these places that individuals can go meet to make sure that they have a direct line to the people who are they're voting in to represent. As a Democrat, making sure that I'm educating individuals about the 21st Democratic Committee, right? And allowing them to come and join the committee, right? They have monthly meetings where we go and we meet our candidates, the congressmen from the senator, so even a legislator comes down and talks to us, right? We make it easier for them to come approach us because we appoint them to take care of the stuff that we don't have time to do, right? Also making sure that we could build the community clubs and the neighborhood associations, right? Making sure that people can attend these neighborhood associations and the community blocks, and that way making them part of the solution and together talk about the issues that we're facing.
Thank you so much. Mr. Cruz, we're going to stay with you for this next question. County Executive Bello recently issued an executive order for a state of emergency, which may have the effect of preventing asylum seekers from being sent to Monroe County from New York City. What is your opinion on how Monroe County should respond to those seeking asylum?
I think that Adam Bello, it's the man that understands how the county works. I don't think there's one person in this Zoom that could say otherwise. And if he made that decision, that is what's best for Monroe County. I will say that we have to have the ample
resources. Just to focus the question. The question isn't about the question isn't about County Executive Bello's decision. It's what's your opinion on how Monroe County should respond to asylum seekers? So I just want to clarify for folks.
Okay, that might be a little bit clearer. We have to have the proper resources to be able to take care of them, right? Making sure that we have the proper housing, right? Otherwise, we have people coming over and we don't have anything to be able to help them with, right? So does Monroe County have the resources to take care of them? Is New York State going to help bring in the resources to be able to sustain, right, that movement of individuals, right? Because at the end of the day, our job is to make sure that we take care of Monroe County and its districts first. And being able to help our brother and sister, obviously, is something that I hold near to my heart, but we have to look at the resources available to do so.
Thank you. Mr. Brewer, questions to you. What's your opinion on how Monroe County should respond to those seeking asylum?
You know, being a single father of a daughter of an immigrant to this country, all men are created equal. America's supposed to be the melting pot. The city of Rochester, along with Monroe County, I believe, is a sanctuary city. I really think we should take care of the people we have here first. But if somebody is looking for shelter and asylum, I've never seen Monroe County like openly turn people away. To me, that is not treating humans as humans. That's degrading people and dehumanizing them. So I would advocate that we get the proper resources to help our asylum seeking brothers and sisters, considering they're still human beings as well. Keeping in mind, we do have to take care of of our population we have already. I did see something a couple weeks ago from the mayor stating that they was working out something with Grease Ridge Mall to make housing out there. So I'm sure, with all these vacant buildings we have, we could turn something in to help our folks out. And I'm sure, not saying I'm sure, but I would definitely work diligently with my state electeds to make sure the state would kick in some funds to help out with our asylum-seeking brothers and sisters.
Thank you so much. Let's go over to LD 29. Dr. Lucas, let's start with you. What's your opinion on how Monroe County should respond to those seeking asylum?
Yeah, I agree with part of what I just heard. We're a country of immigrants, right? And I think that we do have a civic duty to help those who need help. Of course, we need to take care of our own. We need to take care of our residents in our district, but we also have to open our doors to others who need us. During Hurricane Maria, we had countless individuals come here seeking refuge, and we opened our doors to them. And we've done that in other cases as well. And so we can identify some resources working across the lines with the city and our state legislature to identify resources where we can assist people who need assistance.
Thank you. Legislator Burgess, what's your opinion on what Monroe County's response should be to those seeking asylum? Just unmute for me, Legislator Burgess.
Hello? Okay.
Yep, you're there. Go right ahead.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, we definitely can accommodate them, but we need to approach the population in a more dignified way. The county executive put a hold on it for 5 days until we can get a plan. Because if we don't have a plan, they can just come dropping them off, and we have to worry about their safety, their housing, their food, their medical. So it needs to be approached in a more dignified way and not just throwing them to the quote unquote slums. If we accept them, we need a plan to accommodate. We're not getting rich off of trauma. We're providing necessary services to address trauma. We have to hold the powers to be accountable for embracing and not just making the dollar off of them. This population, they add richness to our country. Many come with education, many come as an investment. So yes, we definitely need them to come in. We definitely, should support them coming in, but we have to have a plan. We have to have a plan for them.
Thank you. We'll stay with you, Legislator Burgess. For LD 21 and 29, your districts are in the city of Rochester. So the next question is, I want you to talk about what do you believe the relationship between the city of Rochester and the county should be, and how can the city of Rochester and the county work together to provide for the citizens in your district? Legislator Burgess, we'll start with you first.
Actually, I believe that we're already on that we're already on the right track. We have a county executive and we have a mayor. They work together. And I've always said that if we're going to get to a more healthy community, we need to have a system of checks and balances. Those checks and balances, the city checks up on the county checks up on the city, and have them work together. And I, once again, like I said, I believe that we are on that path to success.
Thank you so much. Dr. Lucas, question is to you. What do you believe the relationship between the city of Rochester and the county should be, and what should we do to improve that relationship to help the citizens in LD 29?
Well, the relationship between them should be strong. I mean, the city of Rochester is part of Monroe County, so there should be no divide. However, as I talk to neighbors every day, they feel as though there is a divide. They feel as though the city, is not, or as though the county does not believe that the city is part of it, right? I hear that all the time. And so we have to do a lot to rectify that relationship, to make sure that the city is being treated equitably and fairly. I've heard people at the doors say that, they just don't feel as though the city's getting their fair share. But I will say that having worked in the county for a couple of years, I know that the county and the city do work collaboratively in many ways, and we need to continue to do that. And we need to enhance those relationships so that the city is being treated equitably, that everyone has an opportunity to thrive across the county, and that we are a united, county, as opposed to two separate, seemingly separate entities.
Thank you, Dr. Lucas. Let's go over to LD 21. Mr. Brewer, we'll start with you. What do you believe should be the relationship between the city of Rochester and Monroe County? And what should they be doing to help the citizens in LD 21?
Primarily in LD 21 and across the county city lines, I mean, we definitely need to have that relationship. I would definitely love to see it stronger. Considering LD 21 does overlap 2 city council seats. So I would definitely advocate and reach out to the council members of both districts to have that working, environment with each other, and to constantly check in on each other. We have to keep hold each other accountable, considering our constituents put us in the seat to do a job for them, not ourselves. So I would really like to, just encourage the council members and the county legislature to work hand in hand, that oversee the portion of the city. Because as we all said, Rochester is a big portion of Monroe County. It's not just a little, dot on a piece of paper. I mean, you don't have Monroe County without Rochester, New York. I would like to highlight the fact, as Mr. Burgess said, that the mayor and County Executive Bello are working hand in hand. Out of my years of voting, that's the most connection I've seen, but I would like to enhance that. And I think all elected officials at the city level and county level should definitely work close to, hand in hand for the better good of our community.
Thank you, Mr. Burr. Mr. Cruz, question is to you. What do you believe should be the relationship between the city of Rochester and Monroe County? And what should they be doing to help the folks in LD 21?
The relationship should be one of the same, right? We are in the same county, we're just the biggest, right, city within the county itself, but that's also because we have the large population. I would like to thank Adam Bello, right? He did something that hasn't been seen in the city of Rochester and between the county and the city of Rochester for 30 years, and that's begin to build those bridges, to work together to make sure that those conversations are being started. Also, Malik Evans, his campaign was literally, the quote was building bridges, right? Something that we haven't even seen in past administrations. We've seen it in the news, seen it in the work that they do together. It's something that is going to take some time, so it's understandable how some city residents, especially the ones that are way older than me, can feel like this county does not represent the city, but they're working on it, they're doing it, and I support the continuation of the work that Adam Bello and our Mayor Malik Evans have been doing.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cruz. It's time for our final questions for the night before we get to closing remarks. So we're going to start with you, Mr. Cruz. And our final question is we had a lot of questions come in tonight. But we want to end the question with, we want to end the night with talking about there's if you're elected to the Monroe County Legislature, you'll have to work with individuals within your party and from the opposite party. So the final question for tonight, it's a 2-part question. So how are you going to work with your constituents in the Democratic Party and across the aisle in the Republican Party to get things done for your district? And be specific, because voters out there want to know, what are you going to get done? And that's been our theme tonight. What are you going to do to implement the priorities that all of you have mentioned tonight? So what are you going to do to work within the members of your party and across the aisle if you're elected to the county ledge?
The first thing that we have to do and understand as legislator is that there are 29 legislators within Monroe County, and you have to work with each one of them, Republicans and Democrats alike, to get things done. I think the best thing and the smartest things to do is to draw a line in the sand or the two pictogram and figure out, where do we agree, right? What are the areas that are bipartisan to us, and where can we begin to start working together? And maybe as we begin to work together on the things that we agree on, we could identify other areas that we might as well agree on and maybe continue to work on, right? This is a give and take. It's like a marriage, right? So I can't promise, I don't go around promising people what I'm going to do. I could promise you what I'm going to advocate for and what I'm going to stand for, right? And where I draw my line, right? But at the same time, I have the understanding of Republican Party in their mind, as I've worked with throughout my job with multiple individuals who are Republican, right? So I understand their mentality, and as a result, I can understand how to work with them, how to talk to them, and how to bring them to the talking table to have the necessary conversations to reach those partisan goals that we want to see within our community, like mental health or youth development, right? And then begin, like I mentioned, to spread out from there. It's not easy, right? But it starts with bringing people to the table. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. Mr. Brewer, questions to you. If you're elected, what are you going to do to work with folks in your own party and across the aisle to get things done for folks in LD 21?
Well, first and foremost, I would diligently work with everybody because, as Mr. Cruz pointed out, there's a total of 29 county legislators on seat. Keeping in mind with the work I do already, I'm already working across the aisle with Republicans and Democrats candidates already as a lobbyist for housing justice. So with that being said, you know, it is bringing everybody to the table, finding out what is bipartisan, what we can agree on, what we cannot agree on, and then finding that silver lining. There's always a silver lining in life. And it's not, you know, we can't go into this thinking that it's my way or no way. There's always going to be room. There's got to be room for negotiation. That's a big thing with the jobs we're seeking. And the work that I currently do already as a housing organizer, I fully understand that. So that the same energy I would be, minus the young we do in Albany, I'm going to be doing under that, obviously, in County Lodge. But I would definitely be working with other colleagues with open ear and open mind.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brewer. Let's go over to LD 29 and start with Dr. Lucas. If you're elected to the legislature, what are you going to do to work with folks in your own party and across the aisle to get things done for folks in LD 29?
You know, I am proud to say that across my career, I have worked collaboratively. And that's just been the nature of what I've done to get things accomplished, to bring money into the community for healthcare jobs, to help in the school district, to, you know, work on health outcomes. And I've built relationships with a number of current county legislators. So I plan to enhance those relationships, strengthen those relationships, so that we can continue to get things done in a collaborative way, and understanding that, you know, we have to work across the aisle with everyone, because the issues that we face are not just city issues or just Democratic issues, but they're county issues. And so we have to be able to bring everybody to the table and talk about these issues and work to get the votes that we need, because at the end of the day, you need 15. And so I would be able to bridge some of those gaps, build some of those relationships, and make sure that we can get the equity and the services and the resources that we need in LD 29.
Thank you so much. Legislator Burgess, questions to you. If you're reelected, what are you going to do to work with folks in your own party and across the aisle to get things done in LD 29?
First of all, you gotta find a common ground. You know, it always can't be about red and blue. It has to be about transparency. You know, think about it. What do we all want? Every legislator, every person that lives in this community wants safer schools, quality housing, quality education, public safety, and just connecting with the people on the other side, saying, hey, you have these things. We necessarily don't have these things. So, identifying where the strengths are despite the partisanship, and build a partnership. I don't claim to have all the answers, so I go to the people. We need to make services more equitable and work to unite parties for common goals. Definitely, I've definitely made
15 seconds.
I definitely made relationships on both sides of the aisle, along with delegates from the state level. And I plan on leaning on those relationships moving forward to help out my community.
Thank you so much. And thank you to our candidates. This will complete our Q&A section. We're now going to go to closing remarks. A reminder to candidates, you have 2 minutes, 2 minutes for closing remarks. We're going to go back in order of LDs in alphabetical order. So let's go over to LD 21. Mr. Brewer, you have 2 minutes for closing remarks. Go right ahead, sir.
Again, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on and making it possible. I would like to thank the other candidates for joining us tonight. It was great being in this space with you guys. But more importantly, I would like to, thank you to the constituents that did ask good questions tonight and decided to join us. I look forward to, seeing you at your door when I knock on your door, maybe some phone banking, and I just want everybody to, keep in mind that the energy I bring as a housing organizer and as a lobbyist, I look forward, if elected to county legislator, to bring the same energy into this space as well. Being an open ear to all my constituents, no matter where you come from, no matter your race, creed, sex, any of that. Just keeping in mind that this is I did not take this on lightly, deciding to run for county ledge, because this is not a joke. This is a serious thing. And I just feel like this is my season to run. And that's why I'm here. And again, I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer. Mr. Cruz, your closing remarks, sir. You have 2 minutes.
There we go. Once again, my name is Santos Cruz. I would like to thank the Women League of Voters for having me and everybody for participating in those great questions. As a public servant for the last 12 years, I have the boots on the ground types of experience to be able to lead a legislative body for the 21st district in a way that's going to make us feel safe and secure as its community risk reduction firefighter for the entire city of Rochester. It's one thing to talk about the opiate epidemic. It's one thing to talk about the youth involved shooting, about these car accidents. It's one thing to talk about everything that we've been witnessing crime-wise. It's another thing to wake up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning to have to go and take care to these things, to witness these things, to witness the acts, right? And to have to be reactive to these things, right? As a result, I have gotten that boot soldier type of experience that can allow me to have that perspective to understand how any legislation is going to impact my community, in order to understand where, as far as public safety, do we need to make sure that we invest money to make our citizens feel safe. I'm working with the Rochester Hispanic Youth Baseball League, with the Northeast Safety Committee, with the Project Clean and No Mas, where I focus on making sure that the Northeast Safety is clean from needles, that we're taking care of individuals through No More, making sure that we say to individuals, hey, we love you, we just don't love what you're doing to our community. Here are the resources for you to get clean, right? Our families deserve a clean and safe environment for them to thrive on, right? Low income, law abiding citizens who through no means of their own live where they are. They do not need to be living in fear. And I know what that fear is. As we have some 500 family members, I utilize baseball as a conduit to bring families together, create a clean and safe environment. It is that grassroots type of experience that has allowed me to understand my district, all right? I don't need to go to Washington to get this done. I do it in my own backyard.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. Thank you, Mr. Brewer, Mr. Cruz. Folks, those are our candidates in LD 21. Let's head over to LD 29 for closing remarks. Legislator Burgess, the floor is yours, sir. You have 2 minutes for closing remarks.
Okay, first of all, I want to say thank you to the League of Women Voters for, allowing us this platform to tell, so that we can get, oh, hello? Sorry about that. Tell you I'm having technical difficulties.
You're
I
fine. We're
apologize.
with you. We're with you. Go right
Okay.
ahead.
All right, I apologize. So yeah, thank you for giving us this platform. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the hugest of the numbers guy. I'm not gonna spit numbers and percentages at you. Being a social worker for 27 years, working in our community, I see firsthand what we need in our communities. We definitely need to improve the quality of life for everyone in our community. We want quality healthcare, we want quality education, we want improved public safety, housing. We need more for our youth to do. There's no question that racism and poverty are ripping this district apart. They are not by accident. They are a result from policy decisions. And I promised my constituents that I would fight and continue to fight to hold the county accountable. Moving forward, I will work tirelessly to fight for the rights of all not only just people in my district, but the people all over. When you're working and you're doing something positive in your district, it'll start catching on like fire. And if somebody's doing something positive in the district, you need to go look at that and learn and let that catch on fire. So once again, I promise to fight, and I will continue to fight.
Thank you, Legislator Burgess. We appreciate it. Dr. Lucas, the floor is yours. You have 2 minutes for closing remarks.
Thank you. And I too, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for giving us this forum. And I want to thank everyone for taking the time this evening to join in and for the thoughtful questions that were put forward. I hope you received the clarity you were looking for, and I encourage you to follow up with me for any further discussion. I welcome the opportunity to talk with my neighbors and learn more about your concerns and hopes for our district, because the only way I can truly represent you is if I talk with you and get to know you and you get to know me. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, but I made Rochester my home when I moved here years ago to go to school. I chose Rochester because of its educational opportunities, its rich history, its close-knit community. I've lived in my home in 14621 for 25 years. I raised my children here, and from a young age taught them the importance of community engagement and self-advocacy and public service. And throughout my 20 some odd year career, I have strived to be a role model for them and their peers and work to demonstrate the values that I encouraged in them. And I want Rochester to be the best it can be. And I want my children to choose to stay in Rochester the same way I did and not leave like so many other young adults who feel they don't belong here or they don't have opportunities here. I want them to earn a living wage, have affordable housing, safe neighborhoods, quality schools to send their children to when it's time. And these aren't big these aren't big requests. They're not far-fetched. We can get there if we work together. I want to be the county legislator for our district, to be a strong voice for your concerns. I will fight to ensure resources are distributed equitably to our district, to advocate for needed services, and work to make sure county government is functioning in your best interest. It's what I have been doing. If you look at my record, you'll see that that's what I've been doing for the last 20 some odd years. And it's what I will continue to do as the county legislator for LD 29.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Lucas. Thank you, Legislator Burgess. Those are your candidates for LD 29. This has been a great night. I want to thank all the candidates for joining us tonight and for discussing the issues tonight. We didn't get all the questions, but the public was definitely able to see where you stand on the issues. And I want to thank the Women League of Voters for hosting this platform and allowing our citizens to hear from each and every one of you. Good luck to you all in your elections, and I'll turn it back over to Barbara.
Thank you, Tyrese. And I want to add my thanks to all 4 of the candidates tonight. It makes a big difference when our public officials are willing to talk to us, and you all showed yourself willing to do that. Just a few reminders about the election. Voter registration is going on until the 17th this year. That's later than usual. So if you're not registered or if you've moved, you still have time to correct your registration or complete it. If you are planning to vote by absentee ballot, you must apply for one in advance. We don't have no excuse absentee voting anymore. The pandemic is over, the emergency part of it anyway. So you will need to tell the county Board of Elections that you need a ballot and why you need a ballot. Early voting opens on the 17th of June. There's sites all over Monroe County. You can find a list of the times and places on the Board of Elections website. And finally, Election Day, the 27th of June, you can vote at your assigned polling place. If you need to know more about what's on your ballot, go to our website, vote411.org. All these candidates and all the candidates on your ballot have been invited to fill out their profiles there, tell you what they think about issues and give you contact information and background information. And we think you'll find that a useful resource. We've got new districts this year, so not everybody knows which district they're in anymore. So that's a help. So I want to thank all of our audience for turning out tonight. This forum was recorded. It will be on our YouTube website probably tomorrow morning. And so we will send an email to everyone in the audience or anyone who had registered to let you know that. Feel free to share it with your friends. We think this is one of the best resources out there for helping you decide who to vote for. So spread it around. And with that, I am going to thank you and wish you all a good evening.